NOOBLANDER here with a quick how-to video. Today we'll be talking about removing bits from sprues and cleaning mold lines. Go over some of the tools I use, give you some tips and tricks on assembling models. And today we're using the Infiltrator's sprue, which is part of our Prophecy of the Wolf build activities. We're going to try to get that built as infiltrators because the campaign calls for it. First thing you need, most importantly, is your wire cutter. So the wire cutter here to remove the bits from the sprue. I've got a nice angled blade, very fine tips to it, very easy for you to get into those hard to reach places from behind or above the sprue depending on how they're angled. Very thin blade. I got this at a craft store in the jewelry department. It works really well for me. The most important tool of a hobbyist is the X-Acto blade here. So this is actually an X-Acto blade. I buy a Revel brand as well. They're pretty good. I use the metal handles because they're sturdy. They don't bend on me. I use the rubber handled one I have for long jobs so I don't get sweaty and slip. Most important tool there. Finally, I have my file set here. Very small files for getting into those hard to reach places. Different shapes and angles of files to get those bits that are funny shaped and anything that you might need to clean up in the model afterwards. Finally, too, another important aspect obviously is our glue. I use the super glue gel from Gorilla. You have to shake it to make the catalyst active. This is one of the best glues I've had the opportunity to use. I like it because it's a nice thick glue, helps you get a nice bead on the model so that when you're assembling it doesn't have to be held as long. Okay, so now we have our Infiltrator Sergeant ready for the cleaning for the flash and molding lines. So we're going to take our knife here, a nice trusty knife here. I want to be very careful. Obviously this is a really sharp blade, and we're going to just get the excess plastic off this model. So right here on his shoulder, we're not going to see that, so we can just cut right into it. For mold lines, which I don't really see any on this piece, which is great. We're going to grab another piece. This piece here, we have a little bit of mold line here. We just take the back of our blade and drag it across. So let's see if we can get a better view here. These models are really good with mold lines, so we see that mold line on the back. We're going to take our blade right off the back of it there. Cut that little piece off, and then take the back of our blade and just drag it back. Now this will sometimes leave a flat edge on the model, so you can try to round it off a little bit if there's kind of a divot. You could also fill it in with, I like to fill it in with some paint. Sometimes you'll notice it when you're painting. You remove this little chunk off his foot here. So if you notice a divot while you're painting, you can always add a little extra paint, but you want to try to do that on the model beforehand. So here we have a nice mold line on his foot. I shouldn't say a nice mold line, we don't like mold lines, but very easily comes off with the edge of the blade. Now, we don't have to cut the blade into the model unless the mold line is very deep, very large. Here we have very light mold lines. Alright, here we're going to try to get a little closer look at the cleaning of the mold lines. Right on the front of this model we have a very light mold line there. You can see right in the middle of his knee there. And again, the technique is just take the back of your blade and drag it away from the model. So very lightly just pull it off the model. Very easy to do. And you sometimes have some contour like around the kneecap there. When you're coming up into it, all you have to do is turn the model around, turn the piece around, and go the opposite direction. You get that little piece out of the corner here. You go all the way down the model here very carefully, very lightly, and that pulls the mold line right off. And if you have a little tougher one, you may have to use the blade in the opposite direction, but I like to just flip the model around, try it like that. So there you are, a little quick technique there for you.